So the next section I'm going to hit on is using the system to its fullest and using it as a form of checks and balances to get our freedoms back. Our forefathers left us the Constitution and, most importantly, the Bill of Rights and the ability to go to due process and have a jury trial. And this is a form of checks and balances where we can overcome corrupt lawmakers. Lawmakers are creating never-ending laws, and a lot of the times they're 1,000 pages long and written by lobbyists, and they don't even read these laws that they're creating. And that's not what freedom looks like, and that is a clear corruption of the system to where money just runs everything. And we need to get away from this mentality and figure out a way to put the power back in the people's hands, so ultimately any one of us can stand up on our own at any time and do this through a jury trial. Because if we just stand up and say, I've had enough, I will not abide by your laws, and take things to a jury trial, we can appeal to 12 of our peers and the people around us in our community and hopefully change the laws. So it takes us having the courage to stand up and do this. There is a thing called jury nullification, to where the jury not only decides the guilt or innocence of the person on trial, they decide the justifiability of the law itself. So if there is a corrupt law that a jury does not agree with, they can decide to vote someone innocent, even though they may have done the crime supposedly and broken the law that some politicians created. If the people don't agree that the law is just, they can find that person innocent, and at which point the law has to be addressed and eventually changed if we the people can stand up and change things that way. But it takes us having the courage to stand up and use our rights to the fullest. The Constitution has the Bill of Rights, which guarantees us a right of due process and a jury trial. So at which point we can stand up and demand that we are allowed to use our rights to the fullest, which is what I do. And from there, it's up to the interpreter to decide what happens. And every single police officer, every single judge, every single official candidate of political parties in any way has taken an oath to the Constitution. And so if they are now presented with a conflict of interest, it's upon themselves to either decide to go with a law that a corrupt politician could have created, or to fundamentally allow the Constitution to reign supreme. And it's their decision to interpret this. And that's where we find a very gray area, because as far as lawyers go, they cannot question the law itself because of the Bar Association, and they will lose their license. Me not being licensed and just defending myself for any charges that may come against me, I can question the law, and I will go to a jury of 12 of my peers, in which case we can actually change the law. And that's what it takes, is us standing up and demanding a jury trial. Now, if this trial is taken from us or abolished or not honored in any way, it goes to show you how corrupt the system really is and how much the Constitution has been abolished. So they have to allow us the ability at a jury trial. There is no other way. That's fundamentally what the system allows. And that's how due process works. And once again, they all took an oath to due process. So while judges and politicians and everyone else that's involved in the system may not always like it, if they look inside themselves and see that they took an oath to the Constitution, they have to support this and stand up for what they took an oath to. So even though they may not agree with what I say, they must allow me to be able to say it in a courtroom to 12 of my peers. And they can't take this freedom from me. And so they are just the mediators between me, the defendant, for the crimes they brought to me, and the jury trial. And they are just the middlemen that should ensure that the process goes smooth and it doesn't get out of hand. And from there, the people are supposed to run things, not the courts. And that's where things get twisted a lot of the time, is that they always try to keep power in their hands as much as possible. So us standing up locally and taking things to jury trial is another way to put the power in we the people's hands. Which leads me to where I am now. I am currently in a court battle with Sunrise Beach. I have had a battle with them before in the past. I once again defend myself in any scenario where there is a victimless crime. I feel that any victimless crime is a waste of police resources that should be instead spent investigating people that have committed crimes and trying to solve crimes for people that have been hurt in this world. And I feel that money is just being generated, and the system seems to focus on money for victimless crimes more often than not to people who are struggling to get by anyway, and I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right. So I stand up for myself and for other people in the hopes to try and change things. Sunrise Beach does give quite a bit of tickets. I would like to compare their mile of road that they have jurisdiction over, how many miles of road they have jurisdiction over of the main highway. The way it works here at the lake, we just have main highways going through our towns, and they only have a couple miles of jurisdiction. But you take somewhere like the rest of Camden County or other towns, or even Camdenton, and see how many tickets they write compared per capita, and I guarantee you'll find out that Sunrise is writing a lot of tickets. But that's a separate entity. I have represented myself in court with them before and cross-examined one of the officers. I won't say any names, but I did get him upset, and he had him cussing in the courtroom, and the judge asked him to leave and asked me what I wanted to do, in which case I said I'd like everything thrown out. It was mainly insurance tickets, driving with no license plates, driving on wrong license plates, no seatbelt ticket. I had a slew of tickets. And they said that if I got my license plates and my truck legal, that they would throw it all out. And I feel, once again, that if our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has been taken from us by forcing us to get a license before we can have freedom, or forcing us to pay a big insurance company before we can freely travel, that freedom has been taken from us. But at the time, I had a lot going on. I was in a tight situation, and I did take and agree to those terms. But I represented myself at that point. From there, I've represented myself on different cases. Most recently, a wide load permit. I had a wide load that I was hauling, and I went and I got the permits for it and everything. I drove through Versailles. It was a silo, 14 foot wide by 14 foot tall. And I drove through Versailles. State troopers, police officers passed me. It was no big deal. But then when I got to Osage Beach, somebody called in because I took up 2 lanes going across the bridge, which I had to. There was no safe way to just stay in one lane and leave half of it blocked off, because then people would have tried to pass me. So I just took up both lanes deliberately. Anyways, I represented myself because I intended to take it to 12 of my peers, and it got thrown out. And with the same prosecutor, because it had got transferred, I've been pretty politically active, and the Lynn Creek prosecutor, where I got the ticket from, had to recuse himself, and then the Sunrise Beach prosecutor took over. Anyways, full circle, I have been representing myself now in an insurance ticket, where I got an insurance ticket in Sunrise Beach. I have had a battle with them before in the past. I, once again, defend myself in any scenario where there is a victimless crime. And I feel that any victimless crime is a waste of police resources that should be instead spent investigating people that have committed crimes and trying to solve crimes for people that have been hurt in this world. And I feel that money is just being generated, and the system seems to focus on money for victimless crimes more often than not to people who are struggling to get by anyway, and I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right. So I stand up for myself and for other people in the hopes to try and change things. Sunrise Beach does give quite a bit of tickets. I would like to compare their mile of road that they have jurisdiction over, how many miles of road they have jurisdiction over of the main highway. The way it works here at the lake, we just have main highways going through our towns, and they only have a couple miles of jurisdiction. But you take somewhere like the rest of Camden County or other towns, or even Camdenton, and see how many tickets they write compared per capita, and I guarantee you'll find out that Sunrise is writing a lot of tickets. But that's a separate entity. I have represented myself in court with them before and cross-examined one of the officers. I won't say any names, but I did get him upset, and he had him cussing in the courtroom, and the judge asked him to leave and asked me what I wanted to do, in which case I said I'd like everything thrown out. It was mainly insurance tickets, driving with no license plates, driving on wrong license plates, no seatbelt ticket. I had a slew of tickets, and they said that if I got my license plates and my truck legal, that they would throw it all out. And I feel, once again, that if our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has been taken from us by forcing us to get a license before we can have freedom, or forcing us to pay a big insurance company before we can freely travel, that freedom has been taken from us. But at the time, I had a lot going on. I was in a tight situation, and I did take and agree to those terms, but I represented myself at that point. From there, I've represented myself on different cases, most recently a wide load permit. I had a wide load that I was hauling, and I went and I got the permits for it and everything. I drove through Versailles. It was a silo, 14 foot wide by 14 foot tall. And I drove through Versailles. State troopers, police officers passed me. It was no big deal. But then when I got to Osage Beach, somebody called in because I took up 2 lanes going across the bridge, which I had to. There was no safe way to just stay in one lane and leave half of it blocked off, because then people would have tried to pass me. So I just took up both lanes deliberately. They gave me a ticket for obstructing traffic, which I clearly wasn't obstructing traffic, and I had even applied for my freedom to be able to carry a wide load permit, and I did have a wide load permit. I represented myself because I intended to take it to 12 of my peers, and it got thrown out. And with the same prosecutor, because it had got transferred, I've been pretty politically active, and the Lynn Creek prosecutor, where I got the ticket from, had to recuse himself, and then the Sunrise Beach prosecutor took over. Anyways, full circle, I have been representing myself now in an insurance ticket, where I got an insurance ticket in Sunrise Beach. I've been to court many times for this ticket, and I guess I'll just give a play-by-play, roughly, of what has went down with me representing myself on this insurance ticket in Sunrise Beach. The night I got it, I got pulled over for a tail light, which was just a little bit of a problem I knew I had, and it was a wire that I had to fix, and I just hadn't had a chance to fix it. The officer gave me a ticket for the insurance, and I tried to express to him that I did have insurance and that it would be a waste of everyone's time, and I also expressed how I feel that even insurance as a whole, being forced to pay for insurance is a way of taking our freedoms, and that I don't agree with it. Even though I do have insurance, I don't agree with it, because I feel our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has been taken. And even my son, he has to pay over $200 a month for insurance, and his car was $1,500. He had a $1,500 car. In a couple months' time, he'll be paying more for insurance than he will his entire car. And there's something fundamentally wrong, massively there. The officer did write the ticket and give me a summons to court. So I showed up to court for the first time, and the prosecutor had both cases. He had my Lynn Creek case for my wide load permit, and he had my insurance case. And I told him that I intend to stand up and represent myself on both of these accounts, and I feel they're non-victim crime, and especially insurance is an infringement of our constitutional rights. And he was very standoffish and said he hoped that I would, because he has went against people that represented themselves before, and he has had the case dismissed and all this other stuff, found them in contempt of court and had them thrown in jail, and he tried to kind of bully me a little bit, in which case I told him, good, I hope we go to jury trial. That is exactly what I am trying for. It's not something I'm running away from. I'm really honestly looking forward to it. And I tried to express this to him, that I enjoy the system and how it works, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it, because ultimately I feel the government is going to come after me one day for my taxes again, and I do intend to represent myself on a very major subject like the IRS and over $100,000 that I owe them. So that is a very big deal, in which I do intend to represent myself, and in which case I want all the practice I can get. And I told him all these exact words, because I said I refuse to pay my income taxes because I feel that it is a crime that I'm being forced to pay for, because I'm being an accessory to the government's crimes. And I legally shouldn't be doing that, because I am even running as sheriff, and from a legal standpoint, if we're being forced, or if we're paying money to someone that is committing a crime, we are an accessory to that crime. From a legal standpoint, there is no denying. And I even told him all these same exact words. I said, you as a prosecutor understand that if we fund a crime, we're an accessory, and that's how that works. So all I have to do is prove the government is committing a crime, in which case I don't have to be an accessory, so I don't have to pay taxes, and I intend to represent myself on this standpoint. In which case he said, you can't tell me about breaking the law. And I said, I'm not breaking the law, and I do intend to represent myself. In which case he said, okay, well, let's go. And I was like, okay, let's go. I really do hope we go to jury trial. I keep expressing this to him. And so we go to court, and he gets before the judge, and he says, well, I got to talk to my cities, but I really hope to take this to court. And I'm like, okay. So we went, and we came back a month later, and I meet him outside of the courtroom once again. And there's a whole bunch of people sitting out there watching, witnessing this. And I tell him, I still want to take this to jury trial. Let's go. And he goes, well, it seems Lynn Creek has decided that they want to drop the case. And he was a lot nicer this time. But he said, well, Lynn Creek has decided they want to drop the case and that they won't pursue it. But Sunrise Beach, they just want a proof of your insurance, and they will gladly drop the insurance case too, which I knew was a possibility the entire time. I've been through this many times before, and I understand very well how the system works. And I told him, sir, even though I have insurance and I can prove I have insurance, I do not intend to show it to you. And I can represent myself in any manner I wish, because you brought the charges to me, and I intend to take this to jury trial because I want to plead to 12 of my peers that this law is unjust, and I want to take it to jury nullification and allow this to be nullified. And he goes, oh, well, you can't do that. And I go, well, yes, I can, and that's my right. And so since then, we have went in front of the judge multiple times, in which case I continually plead, please take this to a jury trial. I want to talk to 12 of my peers and express to them that I feel this law is unjust, and in the hopes that they will see it my way and change the law. And I can question the law where a lawyer can't, because, like I said, they have to abide by the Bar Association, but I don't. So I can question the law, and I intend to. And all I want is the freedom to talk to 12 of my peers and 12 of my people and just say, hey, guys, I don't think this is right. And the way I see insurance is just like a tax, just like a health insurance, It's almost like a tax that's being forced upon us, and it's infringement of our rights. And whether or not everybody else sees it the same, that's what the system does, is it allows us to question things like that on an individual level. And if, like I said, 12 of my peers find this unanimously innocent, then I have the ability, if that happens multiple times, to change the law. And even if they don't find me innocent, if there's one person on that jury that stands up and says, you know what, I will not convict this guy, then the jury is hung and we have to start all over again. I am risking about $3,000 is what it cost for a jury trial. I am willing to risk that, and whatever punishment no insurance is, which is a very small punishment. It's usually a fine, and I don't really think they offer jail time, but it might be technically in the books. Anyways, I'm not worried, and it's a risk I am willing to put myself out there and take. And that's what I'm doing to try and stand up for freedom. And it may seem extreme to some, but to me, it seems logical and like the most logical thing we can do. It's just like wearing a mask. You can't force somebody else to wear a mask to protect you. It's up to you to protect yourself and decide what you're going to do in this world and how you're going to protect yourself. And car insurance is the same way. It's not up to me to protect your assets and your car and your life. It's up to you. If you're worried about it, you protect it yourself. And I'm sorry that other people may not see it the same, but that's the way freedom resides. Ultimately, if you look at freedom and you have freedom in your heart and you look at it from a freedom perspective, you will see that there is no other way. You cannot force somebody to pay something when they have done no crime, they have harmed nobody, and they have done nothing. You can't bubble wrap the world. Where does it end? Does it end with shopping cart insurance? Does it end with ladder insurance? I mean, we could be on a ladder and drop something on somebody. So, well, that is a threat, and that could happen, and somebody could get hurt. So we better have insurance by law now and pay insurance. Or same thing with shopping cart insurance. I mean, literally, I could be walking through Walmart and with a full shopping cart and accidentally bump an old lady and break her hip. Do I have to have insurance on my shopping cart before I can go shop at a grocery store now? Like, man, the end... There is no end in sight when you start creating laws for people that haven't been harmed, for victimless crimes, and when you're bubble wrapping the world. So at the end of it all, you cannot take our freedoms. And I will stand up for freedom, and I will take this to 12 of my peers, and that's what I intend to do. The funny part is that now the prosecutor understands that I can show my proof at any time, and it will get everything dismissed. And he has openly stated that he intends to have, there's a process when you sit down and talk to the jurors. And I've even had prosecutors before tell me, you know what, we picked the jurors, so what are you going to do? Well, I've learned that if you sit in that jury process and you get to pick yourself, then you know what, you have a little control over that. What I've decided is that I'm going to sit there and go through the jury process. It's called voir dire. I'm probably not saying it right, but it's where each attorney gets the chance to go through and select the jurors. And so I will be doing that, and I will be making a documentary of the entire process to make sure that the jurors can't be handpicked and selected and corrupted, because I think if there is a room for corruption, that is where it would be, is in the voir dire. So we have went back and forth a couple times, a lot of it him posturing and trying to get me to just show my proof. And I understand. That's the way the system is designed. If you look at the system, it's designed to kind of bully us and just make us scared of the system, and that's what you see. You see roomfuls of people that are struggling to get by, and they show up scared in court, and the court just processes them through as fast as you can because they know it's a paycheck, and the people just come in and they just want to pay because they're scared. And it doesn't seem right. So instead of being bullied and being scared, I'm using my rights to the absolute fullest, and I am standing up. So now push has come to shove, and it's time to actually take it to trial. And the prosecutor is now doing everything he can to not do it. And what he tried to do most recently is he tried to prove my innocence. And he tried to subpoena me to force me to say who my insurance company was and to prove my insurance. And that is where I feel that he crossed a line. And I represented myself in court, and I stated these exact words, that it is his job as a prosecutor to prove my guilt, not my innocence. So once he has now taken the job of proving my innocence, he has now become my defense lawyer, and he has went beyond his means and what his job is. And since they brought the case to me and brought the charges to me, I can defend myself in any manner I choose. And even though I have insurance, I can still choose to take it to a jury trial. And that is my free right as a citizen. And by him forcing me in a manner to prove my insurance has then therefore taken my right. And I even had the insurance in my pocket, and I told them, I said, whether you force me to tell my insurance company and subpoena my insurance company, or whether you hold me down in court right now and pull this insurance proof out of my pocket and force me to show it, I still have the right to defend myself any way I see fit. And the way I see fit is by going to a jury trial. And I know it's a long shot, but that is my constitutional right, and that's what I wish to do. And so now it's put him in a situation to where he can't subpoena me. And the judge understood and knew this. And I put him in a hard situation to choose between the prosecutor and me. But at the end of the day, he knew it's my constitutional right, and he had to go with the Constitution. And he chose the Constitution. And I cannot respect him enough for it. You can tell that he doesn't agree with what I'm saying, but he will do his job, and he will honor my right to say it and my right to defend it and to fight for it and to allow me to go to jury trial, and I cannot commend that man enough for it. Judge Gilley is truly a great judge, and I respect him a lot for allowing me to go to jury trial. You can tell he doesn't agree with what I'm saying, but the man stands up for the Constitution and my right to be able to say it, and I got a lot of respect for him. From there, I once again told the prosecutor and Judge Gilley and everyone that the prosecutor has now become my defense attorney, and I feel that's out of line, and that he has crossed a line in trying to find me innocent. And at the end of it all, his job is to find me guilty. And if that man cannot find me guilty like his job states, then it is his responsibility to dismiss my case. And as far as forcing me to prove my innocence, he is out of line, and he has taken my constitutional right from me. And the judge seemed to perceive it my way, and I don't know what's going to happen from here. But I do have proof of where I have given them so much problems that I now made the prosecutor turn into my defense attorney and try and find me innocent instead of trying to find me guilty. And it's almost funny that he chose that route, but he tried it and he failed. So we're going to see what happens from there. I think I'll have a case on November 13th in which he's going to try and decide what he wants to do. There's a little more mumbo jumbo run around that it has to go through, but I think it's all a technicality and it should still be going to jury trial. And the judge even told me multiple times through multiple different instances that I could just show my proof at any time, and I keep reiterating to him, yes, I understand, I know, and I do have proof. I promise 100%. I'm not lying. I got proof. I got a business and I have to run it, and I have to have insurance, and I do like my stuff. Even though I don't think we should have insurance, I choose to protect my assets and my stuff because it means a lot to me. But I haven't always had that opportunity. There's been a lot of times where I was so poor in life I had to choose between electric and insurance, and I'll tell you what, I chose electric every time. People may not agree with me, but it's just me trying to stand up and fight for freedom. Hopefully the prosecutor chooses to dismiss the case, but if he doesn't, I once again really don't mind, and I will gladly go to a jury trial, represent myself, and see where it goes. So I invite all the public to come. It is allowed for the public to come and show up. I cannot record. I cannot do any video. There is no way to prove any of this up until court time. And I think that that's a bit of a infringement on our freedoms too. And I think that's a bit of a way for sometimes the system to get away with things. Judge Gilley has been a great judge, but there are terrible judges I've seen with terrible conduct in different counties through the years that have run courtrooms terrible, and some of us probably know who I'm talking about. But there's just professionalism, and there's just certain ways to run things, and you know, it's us voters that have to get out there and decide these things at the end of it all. So we just have to just put the best people we can in place, and that's all we can really do. And that's why I always stand up for voting in the community and doing all I can and doing all we can politically, because we may not be able to control the bigger picture, but we can definitely control the picture right here and make sure we get the best sheriffs and the best judges and the most freedom-minded individuals, or however we see it. You know, I mean, around here we're a little bit more freedom-minded, but there are certain states that aren't, and if they, as long as they don't, you know, harm someone, and they should be free to create the laws that they want. But that's a bigger picture, and that's a different conversation. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this whole insurance ticket and with everything I got going on, and how I've managed to make the prosecutor my defense attorney, and yeah, how that's been going. So from there, I will be also including a solution, because I don't want to just complain about something. I will be creating a solution to the insurance scheme, pyramid scheme, scam, whatever you want to call it, to where we can figure out an alternative method that will still protect us. So check out that video as well. And I appreciate everybody for keeping along, and thank you guys. Oh, and I might be doing a documentary on this, so please keep up if they decide to go to court. This will be the first video of the documentary.